be told, every champion has felt it. Every president has felt it. Every king has felt it. Every lion has felt it. Every winner has felt it. Every soldier has felt it. Every victorious person has felt it. The urge to quit.
Crossroads, life's tolls, life goes. I gotta interrupt my lockdown. You can't rewind.
Hey, how are you guys doing today? This is your host, Sonya, with the Remember Who You Are 222 podcast. I have my guest here, Dr. Elena Estanol. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a delight to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm excited to hear your story, and definitely sounds interesting. So,
Thank you.
All right. So, just to introduce Dr. Elena, she is an intuitive high performance psychologist, ADHD and intuitive leadership coach, trainer and facilitator who empowers her clients to reconnect to the most powerful source of wisdom available, which is their own intuition. She has developed her own blueprint through many personal life experiences and facilitated soul journeys with her clients. So that sounds amazing. Why don't you tell our basically tell our guests what your story is and how you came into doing what you do now?
Sure. And I will try to be specific and brief, right? Because that could be quite a while. And I will say, probably similar to you, when I started, I was a ballerina.
Okay.
So I spent a huge chunk of my life, up to a young adult being a ballerina. And so, when you said, I tend to go for things that are challenging, I could relate, right?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because when I think back to being a young girl, I always wanted to make the world a better place, right? Like people ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was always like, I want to make the world a better place, and people are like, yeah, that's nice. But what do you want it, which was kind of frustrating for me because it felt like I was answering truly from the heart, right? And that didn't feel like a good enough answer, right? And what I realize now is that as I've kind of taken different roads, whatever road I was taking, it was still trying to address that question, right? So as a ballerina, I was like, I want to make people's lives better by allowing them to experience beauty through art, to be able to escape their lives and then be able to, be transformed and be transported to a different place where they can, experience something different that might be beautiful. And I eventually had a pretty severe career-ending injury. And it, of course, I was injured about, I'm going to say 4 months or something before I was finishing my BFA. So I was at the university studying a BFA for ballet performance. I had a job lined up performing, and then I broke my back, 4 months before that. And so in some ways, in a very short amount of time, my life disintegrated. And I'm going to say, we were talking a little bit about you said awakenings, right? And I kind of call it like before the awakening is the dark night of the soul. And I feel like I've experienced several dark nights of the soul, but that was probably my really big one, because in some ways I had worked so hard to achieve something. And then it just felt like, it was all taken away. And it, in some ways, allowed me to go back to the drawing board of what is it that I want to do that can impact people's lives in a positive way. And I ran into a sports psychology book and got really intrigued about it. And I thought, oh, this is fascinating. Why were we not taught about all of these psychological techniques on how to improve how to improve our performance in our life. And, and so I decided to kind of pursue that route. And so I got a master's degree in performance and sports psychology. And as I was going through that, I realized there's so much more than just performance, right? All of a sudden I was working with athletes and then they would start telling me about things that were fairly traumatic or concerns they had with eating disorders or, things like that. And then all of a sudden I was like, that's not performance related. And that feels even more important. Right. And so that's how I decided to, actually I had a very prophetic dream. And I will say that dreams have been a way in which probably my soul has connected with me and given me messages and through my entire life. And I had a pretty prophetic dream around that time. And at that level of consciousness that I had at that moment, the only thing that I took away from that was like, oh, it means that I must become a psychologist. Right. Now I realize that I could have been anything. Right. But at that point, to me was like, oh, it means that I must become a psychologist. Right. And so I pursued that route. And what's interesting is that, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Ever since I was a little girl, I was incredibly intuitive. I'm going to say I was psychic. I could see my guides. I could hear my guides. And both my parents were physicians. And so when I was talking about some of these things, they were like, what are you talking about? My dad, I would tell him my dreams and he's like, is this still your dream? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you making it up? And I was like, no, Dad. But I quickly got the message, right? That these things were not okay. And so I kind of went into the closet, right? Like I went under and just tried to suppress many of my intuitive gifts and just try to pursue that very linear road, which is kind of why I said, okay, well, it's probably psychology, what I need to be doing. Right. And I realized that all along I have been using my intuition. All along I've been connecting, yet there's a part of me that has been sort of self-conscious about it because that's how I grew up, B, so much of what our societal messages are, and C, because in the psychology world, at least when I went to school, if you hear things are not there and you see things are not there, then it means that you are psychotic and that you should be hospitalized because you have now lost touch with reality. Right. And so I had a clear sense that I was perfectly, I was perfectly rational. I was perfectly grounded in reality. And I still could sense things and I could still, have a sense that there was more to our life experience and to my client's life experiences than met the eye. Right. And I think that it took me a while to be able to connect these dots. And why it came through intuition is because, as I mentioned to you in the green room, I'm going to say, I had several dark nights of the soul. Right. And so at some point, I fell down, broke my ankle, and then had some other severe complications. And to make a very long story short, I was disabled for 3 years. So for 3 years, I was on crutches. I couldn't walk. And it was pretty destabilizing. And of course, I spent a lot of time in silence and on my own. And at that time, I started getting these downloads, right? So I was I was telling you, I was waking up in the middle of the night and it was like 3:33 every time, which is why now it's become my favorite number. And a lot of times I would be in the middle of a dream and then something would start coming in my consciousness in the dream that I thought, this is really important. I need to write this down. And, I would struggle and then eventually I would wake up and then it was like 3:33. So then I just began to start taking notes of the downloads of whatever information was coming. You know, I was telling you, I taught myself to do it on my phone because often there's the energy was so intense that then I was also crying. So a lot of times I couldn't even see what was going on. But it was actually during that period that I was given the blueprint of how to teach intuition. And so I was basically, you know, so what I was downloading was, this is, you know, these are the different types of intuition. This is how, you know, the very simplified version that you guys can understand and relate, but there's actually more than just that one. And here it is, and here's how you need to teach it. And, you know, so it was very specific and also a little bit overwhelming. Right. Because for me, it was like, I'm a psychologist. And I remember saying, why? The question was something like, why are you asking me to teach this thing? Why are you asking me to teach intuition? This is not my specialty, right? Like this is not my specialty. And the answer was precisely. And I was like, precisely what?
That's funny.
Right. But and part of what they said is precisely because we don't want your head to get in the way. We want it to actually be coming from the heart, and for you to actually rely on being in your heart and trusting things that you don't know. And because we have, you know, one of the teachings that I was given is we have made the head, we have made the brain the CEO, where it actually needed to be the secretary or the executive assistant. The heart needed to be the CEO. The brain needed to be the executive assistant, and we got it wrong. Right. And so it was like, yeah, precisely. We just want your head so that you can organize the stuff later.
Right. It is crazy how that happens. No, but a lot of your story really resonates with my story for sure. As far as like, I know being a ballerina is very taxing on the body, and you have to be very athletic and stuff like that. And so my whole life I was an athlete. I played sports, and that was always just my, like, I guess it was like my therapy to escape the stuff that was going on at home. And and I didn't have like a severe injury, but I actually have a story to where I ran track for San Diego State University, and I had a mental block. I was running really well for like my first 4 years, and then my last year, I could not get past this mental block, and they ended up cutting me from the team, and it devastated me.
Yeah, I could imagine. So I was like, oh, did you get to work with the sports psychologist at the?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was really kind of calm down. I'll get you some if you can sit over here and let mommy do this, then I'll get you candy afterwards, okay? Okay? Let mommy do this, and then I'll get you candy. Oh.
Cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can relate to that pain of having worked so hard for something, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah, and it was just like cut, and I was like, what do I do now? Like, it really felt like that. And my major was kinesiology when I went for my bachelor's, and so I was kind of working with athletes, but it was like strength and conditioning was what I was really doing.
Yeah, a ton of my friends are trainers or strength and conditioning because we were in the same department. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so it was just, but it's just interesting after graduating and joining the Marines. I guess that was my let me find something else that which I ended up doing really well in the Marine Corps, like physically, and I started doing bodybuilding competitions. But I think it was almost like I had something to prove. It was like I had something to prove to myself. So it was definitely a lot of subconscious stuff going on that I didn't realize for the longest time. So we definitely have some pretty
totally. And I love what you're sharing, because it's exactly why, people often ask me, they're like, well, how does this, like, how do you do your work? And I'm like, well, because there's a whole process. If we have a lot of traumatic experiences and or mental blocks or things that we're holding on to, that they're getting in the way of whatever we're creating. They're getting in the way of us, achieving the things that we want to achieve, right? Like they're holding us back, whatever fear or inner criticism, that those same things get in the way of being able to connect and access your intuitive knowing, because then the knowing comes through that filter, right? And if you have not cleared it, right, then it just kind of gets distorted.
You can't really hear it. Yeah.
Exactly. It gets distorted, or we don't hear it, or it gets, totally deleted before it even lands, right? And so in some ways, a huge part of what I do is really doing release work, shadow work at the core, at the root cause, right? Because a lot of times people talk about like, but when you're not going back to the root, right? It's kind of like cutting a weed. The weed will keep growing because you have not yanked it from the root, And so that's sort of a huge part of what I do at the beginning. Is really like why I call myself a soul liberator, because it's really about liberating people from all of the beliefs and emotions and things that keep us really stuck. And, so that then now you create the spaciousness to then how does intuition speak to you? How do you connect to it? Because that's the other piece, is intuition is a really powerful skill, and how each of us connect to it is different. And so being able to reconnect, each person to their own ability, instead of saying it needs to go this way, is to be able to say, how does it show up for you? And then beginning to open the doors for them to begin to recognize, like, oh, the time that I felt like I needed to blah, 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 that was my intuition. Oh, the time that I felt this, oh, that was my intuition. Or the time that I heard this, or I saw this vision, or that was my intuition, right? And then you start then identifying all of those moments where, oh, that was your intuition speaking to you.
Right.
Even if you didn't do the thing, because I have a lot of friends who are like, I'm realizing that there's many times that it was there and I heard it, but I didn't do that. And I said, it doesn't matter if you didn't listen, because it's not about, I'm all about truth without judgment. I call it TWH, because a lot of times we don't like to look at the truth because we immediately judge ourselves, but if you could just say, no judgment, let's just look at what's happened. Let's just look at what I did or what I didn't do. And then have zero judgment, have compassion, but then take that lesson forward, right? And be like, oh, because even if you didn't follow through, if you can identify, my intuition was speaking to me in this way, I totally ignored it, and then this bad thing happened, and you can go back and realize that every time that your intuition was saying something and you ignored it, things went poorly, and you can go back and identify all of those things. That's really powerful, because then you'll go back and realize, wow, my intuition was right every time.
Right. Every time.
Even if you didn't listen before, you can go back and be like, wow, it was right every time.
Yeah. So then you can start to trust yourself.
Correct.
So I do love that you do that, because that's the one thing that I feel like is like one of the biggest things. And it's interesting because I spoke to a psychologist this morning as well, and we were kind of on the same page about non-judgment, and so it's very like synchronistic.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, because I think judgment is what keeps you stuck, right? Because so much, I do believe that we're moving, our world is changing, and there's no doubt about that. And I feel like there's this movement where things are going to need to break down completely before a new system and a new world really emerges. why I feel even more on fire about my calling of teaching people how to connect to their intuition is that in this old world, we have been programmed to seek for truth outside of ourselves, to seek for guidance from external authorities, to seek for, right? And right now, it's getting to be very obvious that there's a lot of danger in doing that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And so then all of a sudden people are like, so if I cannot trust the external authorities because they're doing and saying crazy things, then who do I trust?
Right. It's like you're forced to look within and trust yourself. Because you're
And
like,
so then
man, what is going on in the world today? Like,
right.
if it's not obvious now, like,
correct,
you know,
right?
Like, you would have never seen what's going on now. Especially with like our presidency and stuff. And it's like, I don't know, even when I hear people talk about politics now, to me, I'm like, so you guys are still paying attention to this clown. It's like, it's really like a circus show right now to distract people. I believe because of this great awakening that's happening.
Well, and you know, and I'm not a fan of you know, like necessarily discussing politics, but what's really sad is that it's to me, what it's sad is that it's divided. It's dividing us, it's dividing our country, it's dividing people, right? And if you think about what's the best known battle strategy,
Division, yeah.
divide and conquer, right? Like you begin to break down a system, you begin to break down the trust inside a system, then all of a sudden they start fighting amongst themselves, and that's when you can conquer, because you don't have the strength and stability of standing united, right? And so to me, this is the biggest consequence, right? And that we are not able to look at each other and say, you know, we are the same. You know, what one of the things that I love about yoga is this idea of, you know, the light in me honors the light in you, right? Like that I see your light and we're the same. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing, and that we can recognize that at the higher level, we're all connected, right? We're all coming from the same energy. We're all connected. We're here for evolution. And unfortunately, we have been programmed with a whole lot of things, right? And so amongst those things have been achievement at any cost, competition, right? And masking. So people don't like to think about the idea of lying, but if you're wearing a mask and you're not being truly authentic to who you are, right? Then all of a sudden, correct.
You're lying to yourself.
And that's it. And that's exactly the biggest, to me, is like the biggest heartbreak, because when you're not just lying to others, but you're lying to yourself, now that's the biggest disconnection from your intuition, which is the greatest bridge for your higher wisdom to come through. You know, and so to me, this is really the time when we all need to learn how to develop these intuitive gifts and intuitive skills to a much higher level. We need to learn this idea of discernment, of being able to know whether something is true or not, to being able to know whether something is good for you or not, without having to go around 10 different people or, you know, ask somebody from outside of you, but that you can really get to have a very reliable way and a reliable system to say, is this good for me or is this not? From little things to big things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I do think, even for me, it took me a long time to really learn to trust myself, and, you know, finding teachers. And, you know, I think first I did start with a therapist for a couple of years, and then when that was kind of at its at its end, it was like, because there's only so much like talk therapy can do for you.
Yes.
And then it was like that next level, like, okay, I had this quantum healing experience, and then I had to integrate, and then I realized that I was meant to find those teachers.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I was meant to find the teachers and spend the money that I needed to on myself, so that I can finally get to the point to where I could trust myself, and now I can honestly say, like, I really am. I'm able to, like, at least find my own answers, and at least feel in my body. And it's just getting better and better from there. So
yeah,
I definitely believe that I do believe that people need teachers at first, to be able to be guided.
Oh, 100%. And I think that to a certain degree, we often need teachers or a community. I eventually found Huna, which is an ancient Hawaiian healing energy psychology art. And many of the things that we learn in regards to mastering our energy and knowing how to connect to the elements and use elemental energy to, create a life that it's a lot more balanced and a lot more successful. Many of the different teachings I already knew and I had learned from other teachings, but Huna resonated for me because the way that it was organized made sense. And it also, because it went back to a lineage that we could trace, and we have a community, right? And so I think that it's very difficult to continue our process of evolution on your own, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of talked a little bit about part of like the world is, needs to change, because part of that change is also about being authentic, and it's about being, it's about just authenticity and genuineness, recognizing that we don't need to have it all perfect, but we could be like, this is my truth where I'm at. And then having that openness to be like, what else is there? And could I learn and listen for a different perspective of that, and have my process, right? He's so cute. He's like, so
okay.
and I like it.
He's such a boy.
It's awesome. It's beautiful. And one of the things that I love, for instance, about Huna is that this idea about forgiveness, Ho'oponopono. A lot of times people talk about the Ho'oponopono prayer, which it's not anything. That's a very simplified thing about really what it is, an actual process that we take people through that is both really powerful and really energetic. Because again, if we cannot release, right, like any resentment or hurt or whatever of the things that we've experienced, then that's going to get in the way of moving to the next thing, no matter what, right? Like we talked a little bit kind of in the green room about, unfortunately, I think so much of our spiritual awakening experiences involve going through painful situations, whether that's health, whether that's money, whether that's relationships. I used to think like, oh, some people have decided that their soul contract, that they're going to learn their lessons in this way. And some people have decided that it's going to be relationships, and some people money, and, and now I'm like, I said, I was really stubborn because I'm like, I've had them all.
Right.
Like, I've gone through them all. The idea of like losing, like I've been struggled with my health. I've walked away from relationships. I've lost so much money, and so, and I feel like partly it's also a refinement of our soul process of helping us recognize that there is nothing here in this world outside of us that is going to be more valuable or more important than us connecting to our own bodies and our own wisdom and our
Yeah.
own source of guidance.
Right. Stop. You cannot. No spitting.
Hi.
No spitting, baby.
Hi,
No,
Ganesh.
that's
Hi.
hey, no spitting. No spitting.
Did you do me a picture?
Right. Did you draw the picture, baby?
Yeah.
Did you draw one?
I can draw. A heart.
You can draw a heart. Let me see. Let me see.
That's beautiful.
Oh.
Dip, dip, dip.
Where's the pen? Where did it go? Oh, here. Here's the pen. Oh.
So anyway, I think that there's a huge piece of, just processes of coming back to yourself. And even I do believe that there's so many of us that need to be stepping up, right?
Mhm.
And like you were saying, I feel like I need to speak, and
Mhm.
nobody's really taught us, for instance, how to manage our energy,
Mhm.
how our energy is communicating
Mhm.
things even before we say anything, right? And
Mhm.
so that's one of the other things that I really love being able to do, because it's kind of crazy how like those downloads come and you're like, I don't know how to do with all this information, and then eventually things land, and
Yeah.
so I'm saying that as that's happened for you, you
Mhm.
begin to organize, and then you realize like, wow, this is it's not just for me. This is, I had this whole download on energetic blueprints and texts. So helping people understand what's their energetic blueprint,
Yeah.
right? And then how can they use it to be seen, to be heard,
Mhm.
to communicate in a way that feels more powerful, more grounded. And at the same time, how do they stay connected to that source of wisdom? And, so I don't know. So to me, it feels, it's incredibly powerful for me to see the change in my clients and
Mhm.
having them go from being like, I think this is it, and kind of to being so confident and
Mhm.
so assured, because
Mhm.
they're no longer seeking that validation from the outside because they already know.
Right.
And sometimes it could be just like simple things, like I was at a retreat with a bunch of people, and there's like all of these bottles of wine, and some wine actually I can drink and some I can't. I don't drink very much anyway,
Mhm.
but she's like, we have all these, can you tell me? And so I literally was like lifting up the bottles, and I was like, no, this one.
Mm.
And she looked at me and she's like, what? How? You didn't even look at the label. How did you figure it
Yeah.
out? I'm like, I have a method. It's just, it's an intuitive thing, and I just know. And
Yeah.
she just looked at me like, you are insane. But in some ways it was like, well, that was a lot faster than me trying to read all of those labels.
Right. No, that's true. When you really tap into it and like trust it, you start to see things that you can feel into and like just experiment with it more.
Totally. I mean, it's with things, with people, experiences, right? Being able to know, I'm not feeling the vibe with this person versus, many of my good friends they've become really great friends on an intuitive hunch. Either they felt like they needed to reach out and they did, and then we met and we just totally hit it off, or I felt like, go talk to that person or go do the thing, and I'm like, but really, like what? Go talk to them. Right. And I'm like, okay, and then you just go over there, and then all of a sudden, like you're best friends.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's true. There was actually a girl in my class. We started at the same exact time in my master's class, and we have such similar stories. Like she's still in the military right now. And so it was just interesting how that happens. And now we're like, we text each other all the time, and we're planning on like going to visit. She's in like Washington State, but
it doesn't matter. I'll tell you the story. So, after that happened and I had like all of this intuition thing, and they were like, you need to teach this to people. And I was like, why me? And why, this is not my specialty, blah, 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 And so then I was like, well, I just feel like at that point, I didn't feel confident enough to do it on my own. Right. Like I was still coming from this world where, you have to study all these things, be in school,
Yeah,
and
you have to have all this knowledge.
blah, 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 right. And I'm like, this is not my area of expertise. Like, how am I going to do this thing? Right. Like I'm in my head about all this stuff. And so they were like, well, you can have somebody help you, like have somebody support you in bringing this to the world. And I was like, well, who? And literally, like, I saw a picture of this woman who I had met once, maybe twice at an event, right? So I just saw her face. I think we've met twice. One time, the first time somebody's like, you guys need to meet. We're like, hi, nice to meet you. Off. The second time, I was at an event and I literally heard, go outside. And I'm like, I just got in, go outside. Now I'm listening to my intuition so clearly, right? I went outside, nothing's happening. I go to the bathroom, nothing's happening. I come out, I'm like, what's going on? Right. And then all of a sudden I see her and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go say hi. Talked, she had just brought this game out into the world. And we had a great interaction, but we didn't know each other very well, right? And so all of a sudden I'm hearing this, she can help you, right? She can. And so I reached out and I said, I know that we don't know each other very well, but here's the thing. I have this intuition blueprint and I feel like I need to bring it out into the world. Is this something that you would be interested in helping me do? And to be fair, for me, I also wanted to have almost like a confirmation. Right? Because there's a part of me that has also, even though I'm very intuitive, that it's also a little skeptical, right? Like it's the sciencey part of me, the PhD, blah, blah, right? So I was like, well, it'd be really great to have somebody else that is also intuitive, because I could be like, tell me, what do you think about this? Right? And then she can tell me, and then I can compare it to what I have and see whether, right? Or I could be like, I got this. What do you think? Like, and then she could be like, oh, it's different, or this is the same, right? Anyway, so I reached out of the blue and she was like, I'm interested. And so we created this course together. It was amazing because it was so aligned, right? Like for us to do this together. And I was like, I think it's this. And she's like, totally. And this is how, right? Or she'd say, like, or she had a little piece and I'm like, oh yeah, I have this other blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh my gosh, she has that totally. Right. And so we created this course together. And then we've run retreats and, groups, etc. And we're best friends. We've never lived in the same place, He's always lived in another state. And, and it's been the most beautiful friendship, the most beautiful collaboration. Right. And it just came from me following my intuition.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah. Because even this girl, I wanted to start hosting retreats.
Yeah.
And she actually does sound healing and light language.
Yeah.
And I was like, you could come do the sound healing and light language at my retreat.
Totally. Exactly.
So we did talk about that.
And I think that's exactly like paying attention to those little things, And I feel like for me, somebody asked me, like, is there a time that you ever not trust it? Right. And the reality is that for me, it's a no, partly because I've gone through so many different experiences and I tested that blueprint for myself and my clients. I am alive.
Completely trust. Yeah.
I am alive today because I trusted my intuition. And so I'll say this piece about, I have a very severe, I have celiac, so I have a very severe gluten allergy. And so anytime that I eat gluten, I have like a very severe reaction and stomach pain. And so I can't remember how many years ago it's been now, but I basically had appendicitis. But I thought initially that it was that I had eaten something with gluten. Right. And so then I was just trying to like let it pass through. And then eventually it became so intense that I was like, I think that this is something worse than that, you know?
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor, and it was a Friday. And my doctor wasn't there. So I had to see a nurse practitioner or somebody, but it's somebody that didn't know me. Right. And so then she ran several tests, and she said, well, I'll run some tests and then I'll call you and let you know. And I said, okay. And I went home, and I immediately went home and I packed a bag, you know? And so she called me and she said, well, your test results don't really indicate that it would be appendicitis. And I said, why? And then she told me, and I said, okay. I said, what would be the test that you would run if you suspected that I had appendicitis? And she said, well, I would send you to get a CT scan, but I don't have enough evidence to order a CT scan and have your insurance cover it. And in that moment, I just knew, you know, and I said, it doesn't matter. Order the CT scan. And she said, but your insurance might not cover it. And I said, it doesn't matter. Just order it.
Yeah.
And so she said, okay, I'm going to order it. And then you can, right. And so then she called back. She's like, you're scheduled for 4, blah, blah, blah. Right. I went to do the scan. I took my bag that I had packed. They did the scan, and 30 minutes later, they were like, you need to go directly to the OR. They're already waiting for you. You have severe appendicitis, and you need to get there ASAP.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
I got there, and then they were all like freaking out. They wheeled me in and got me into the operating room right away.
Yeah.
I realized after that my appendix had just burst.
Wow.
And if I had not listened to my intuition and pushed for that, I wouldn't be alive today.
Yeah. That's crazy. That definitely. Yeah. I've heard a few stories like that. Just not not a one-on-one conversation like this.
Right.
But yeah. But I have heard how that your intuition can really do that for you. So no,
And
that's
this is why when people are like, no, I just dismiss it, I'm like,
yeah, you're like, no,
you might need to start paying attention to it, because you know, it could save your life. It could save, it's happened with me saving a client's life. You know, there's sort of this rule in the psychology world that you do not disclose any information, even to family members, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I had a client that I was concerned about, like her drinking behaviors. And all of a sudden I got a call from a family member, and they were like, you know, they called, I don't know what to do. I didn't have enough information to like clinically be able to call back and disclose, but my intuition was like, so I called them back and I said, you get there as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they said, just hurry and get there. And if there's any problem, call 911, then let me know. And by the time they arrived, she was like aspirating. And so they had to call 911, and thank God she was saved and is alive. And right. And so I feel like there's been several things, you know, that we think like, oh, it's about your path and making little decisions. It can be little decisions, but it could also be like really big decisions.
Life-saving.
Totally.
Serious. Yeah.
Totally.
No, because I can definitely remember times where my body was literally telling me, like, why my stomach would start hurting or something, and then I went and it was a big blow up of something, and I should have just not gone, but like luckily it wasn't anything. Yeah, it's super crazy. I do feel like my intuition has kept me out of major things where certain things I did follow unknowingly almost. Because there have been times throughout my life I just knew not to do certain things, especially as like a woman.
Yes.
So yeah.
Absolutely. And that is your intuition, you know, your connection to your superconscious. People ask me like, well, what does intuition have to do like with like channeling or like, I'm like, it's the bridge.
Yeah.
right? Like it's the bridge that connects you to your higher self. It's the bridge that connects you to the collective unconscious. It's the bridge. It's how things come into our realm, into our bodies, into our world, right? So if
Yeah.
we do not develop that connection, then everything else is right. So
Right. Hold on one second. You
yes, of
cannot,
course.
when they get too
He's
quiet,
getting
it's
in,
like,
yeah,
wait.
they're getting into trouble, and then you need to go see what's happening.
Okay. Yeah. So I know it's probably I'm gonna have to edit, but
Okay.
but it's fine. We could so yeah, I did want to ask you about you did say that there was like different types of intuition. Would you be able to go into some of the different types, or you have like something that you can show people or give people?
Sure. So I'll tell you and your listeners where they can go and download this infographic that talks about all the different types of intuition and how to recognize them. And I even take them through a little process so they can begin to start exploring. And I'll talk about maybe just the first one, which is the one that most people are familiar with, which is what we call warning intuition, right? And so most people talk about this idea of they have heard their intuition usually when either they are in danger or a loved one is in danger, and
Yeah.
it makes sense that this is when you have heard it, right? Like I told you these stories about saving my life and my clients' lives. Like there was like a very strong, like, no, this needs to be it. And so being able to discern anything that comes from intuition, it never has anything, the language is not negative, meaning it's not judgmental, it's not punitive, but it can be very strong and it can be very direct, right? So it could be like, do the test now, turn here, get out, leave,
Yeah.
so call so and so, right? And if you notice, even if you're like, no, it's fine, right? Like I think probably the thing that most people can relate to is kind of having this random thought of call so and so, and you're like, no, it's okay, like I'll just call so and so or go, right? Like, so it's very persistent and very direct, never negative, but very persistent and very direct, right? And how it is experienced, it feels intense, like it's loud enough that you could hear it, even if you've never been tuned into it. All of a sudden, you're like, I just know I need to do this, right? Or I'm compelled to do this thing. And I feel like the reason why people are most connected to this is because it's the loudest. And of course, it needs to be the loudest because it's usually related to maintaining some degree of safety in our lives.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
And, and again, like I said, how people experience it is a little different. So some people talk about gut, like I just have this gut feeling, or my stomach gets, or I get sick to my stomach, or my, I have this like sour, taste in my mouth or something. Right. And so then I would be like, so if you're feeling it in your stomach, or then identify that that's how that type of intuition is coming to you, right? Some people tell me like I feel in my chest just gets really tight, right? And so if you are more around the clairsentience skill, right, like you are probably going to feel it in your body. If you are more around the clairaudient, you're going to hear things. So sometimes people say I hear high pitched sound, or I just hear like somebody speaking to me in my ear, or I hear, I've had somebody be like, I just hear violins and I know I need to pay attention to it, And so it's really interesting because this is the part that I find so fascinating is how different people, how their intuition speaks to them. And this is why we dismiss it, which is this is a huge part of the training, is beginning to start recognizing how does it speak to you, right? Sometimes, like when you were talking about your son, you said, I just know, right? So for some people that are clear cognizant, it's almost like this knowing just drops into your head, and you're like, I don't know how I know this thing, but I just know that this is how it needs to be, right? I just know that this is true. And I would say that's clear cognizant. And that's a really powerful intuitive gift. And I think that at times people get a little, they struggle with discernment, because then they're like, how do I know that this is intuition versus me thinking in all this way? Because, right. So, because it's usually like pretty bright people that get claircognizant, right? And then some people actually see things where they like little like images flash in, and not in our eyes like 3D eyes, but what I would say like the internal screen of our mind that we use for visualization. Like all of a sudden you'll have like a flash,
Like
you'll have a
visions,
scene, you'll see something, right? And so it's really quite fascinating that to start recognizing like, oh, and that then at times, depending on the particular type of intuition, those signals begin to come a little bit different. And so I will say the warning intuition is the strongest. And then it gets a lot more, it starts getting quieter and quieter as it moves along. So that you need to become a lot more tuned because it becomes more subtle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
it makes a lot of sense.
So where they can get this is at my website. It's synapsewellness.com. And I will just spell this as SYNAPSE wellness.com /intuition -types. So synapsewellness.com /intuition -types. And you just need to enter your info, and then you will get the little download that tells you all of the different types of intuition, how does it show up. And then later on, I actually share a meditation and an audio on how to begin to use their intuition to make important decisions. And so it's most of my clients have said this has been really helpful for me to be able to start noticing like, oh, this is this and this is that. And, because it is a skill. So it's something that some people tell me I'm not into it. We all have it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it's a skill we all have. It's just about how much we have developed, right? So if you haven't really paid attention to it or you've dismissed it, right? It's there. It's just laying dormant.
Yeah.
Right. So we just need to kind of wake it up, and then you need to put in the reps, right? Like
work on it. Like
you're
going
not going to wake up and do a marathon, right? You need to do little reps and little runs and practices and all these things, so that then you develop that sense of trust, so that then it works for you.
Yeah, definitely. No, it makes a lot of sense. It's definitely how I've kind of started to develop mine. Even when you said it, I know for a fact that like I have my biggest is clairsentience.
Yep.
And then I have had certain times where it'd be like visual, and I'd say my least developed one is probably the audio. But I've definitely had visual, and I've definitely had like the knowings.
Yep.
So yeah. Definitely.
And that's the beautiful thing, is that once you actually begin to tune in and start listening, you'll strengthen one channel, and then you will begin developing other channels, and then eventually you'll find whichever. So I, just like you, I started with clairsentience. I would feel everything. I would feel people, and then eventually I started developing clairaudience, which now it's my primary. Like I just hear and hear very specific, and there's times when I see images, and for a long time I was like, I want to be able to see, and then I realized whenever I would get images, then I'd be like, oh, I'm seeing, but now I need to figure out what the image is. And now I need to try to interpret what that image means. And what is that image trying to tell me? You know,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I was like, never mind. I really like clairaudience because it just comes very clearly and I know exactly what you're trying to say.
Yeah. You know what? My visions have actually came in like specific times. There was a time where I thought I was like stuck somewhere and I was like, I don't know where my phone's at. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I almost started freaking out, but then I was like, okay, take deep breaths, calm down. And then I asked, like, okay, how do I get myself out of this situation? And it was literally a flash of exactly what I needed. And the crazy thing is I had this second phone that I never have with me in the car, but that day it was in my makeup bag in the car.
Sonya, I love that. That is like such a beautiful example. And I just love that you shared because I think that that's exactly probably when it's the most powerful for most of us, when we're like, and be like, to actually remember and to do what you did. I think that's so powerful. And I know that I've done it. Yeah, there's times when I've been like, oh my God, you know, and then I was like, okay,
yeah, like about to freak out.
Down, take a few deep breaths, ground, then ask the question. And you usually like either like I will see a picture or I'll, you know, I'll hear something and then I usually will go and it's like, sure enough, that's where the thing was, or that's where the, you know, and it's like, okay. But usually when we get to that place, we forget. So I love that you brought that up because that's exactly the practice. That's exactly the practice. And I think the other piece is for people to be able to start writing down, either when you go back and look back in your life and realize like, oh, that was my intuition. I didn't follow it. Totally kicked my ass. Don't dismiss it. Like that's an important thing because even if you didn't pay attention then, you realize, oh, it kicked your ass because you didn't actually listen. Right. And so being able to begin to document all of the moments when you're very clear that your intuition is giving you guidance, whether you actually follow it or not, and then what happened. Because once you begin to create like a document and you start documenting all the things, right, then it's hard to argue against your own experience, you know, and I think that this is for me, it's just about empowering people to trust themselves, right? Instead of like, don't trust me or you, like, it's just like really look at your own experience and how you're, you know, and you will realize that you have access to the truth inside of you.
Yeah. No, definitely. I love that. No, this has been like an amazing conversation. And I'm glad you came on for the show.
So delighted that you invited me. So very honored.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to have another episode or something, but
sounds great.
Yeah. We will, well, I'm not going to hold you too long. So I think we will start to close it out.
Yep.
And is that the only place that your website, is that the place that you want people to go to contact you?
My website is probably the easiest to find me.
Okay.
I do have
social media.
Yeah, I have social media, Facebook, Instagram. I was trying to figure out, like, remember I have a link tree.
Okay.
I have a link tree link where then there's a bunch of different, I guess, links, right? Like that people can find me at. Let me see if I can bring it up really quick. It's linktr.ee/dr.estanol. So basically Dr. Estanol, but dr.estanol. So linktr.ee/dr.estanol.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's another place where people can find some free gifts, other resources. I have a little ADHD quiz and, you know, other free resources that they can access, and they can just go to my website again, synapsewellness.com as well. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and we didn't even get into ADHD or anything.
It's okay. That's why like we can come back and have a whole other conversation about it.
So okay. And then I'll put all that in the description. And then I usually just ask one closing wisdom question to everyone. And it's basically just, so if you were to find one truth about our divinity, what would that truth be?
That's such a beautiful question. And I would say that we are all one.
I love that. Yeah.
We are all one. And we are all one, wanting to have and experience our divinity through different situations and perspectives. But in the end, we are all part of
The same
one.
unified field of consciousness.
Exactly. Exactly. And what you do to me, you do to yourself. What I do to you, I do to myself. And this is where being mindful of how we are with each other and how we treat each other it's important, and not from a perspective of karma, but from a perspective.
My bubble maker. My bubble maker.
Yeah. No, I love that for sure.
My bubble maker.
Okay. Well, we will end it there today. And you guys have a great rest of your day.
Sounds great. It was totally delightful being with you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye.